Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. It's my show. Welcome. You can call in if you want. I'm sure a lot of you are going to have questions about sheltering in place, and I want to get through that with you. The phone number here, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Let's get straight into this before I get into any other news. Although I do have to tell you first, I need a special thank you to the local Lowe's. Here in Macon. And yes, it's my show. Doggone it, I'm going to begin right here by thanking the two guys who showed up this morning to give me a new washer and dryer. I totally forgot to tell you guys this story. So I'm making my sourdough starter. And I had a couple down the street who have one that's very old and were willing to give me some. I was like, you know what? By God, I'm going to make my own sourdough starter. I've always wanted to. I'm quarantined in the house. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm starting with sourdough. It's my show. Just we'll get to the order here. 1 second. You'll appreciate this story. So I'm making this. And on Wednesday, my wife and my son start complaining that it stinks. It smells like bleach. That they are not fans of my sourdough starter. And I'm like, it doesn't stink. It smells a little bit like skunky beer, but it doesn't actually smell like bleach or burning rubber that you're saying that it does. And I put the lid back on and like, man, it really does stink. And then I realized, wait a second, that's not the starter. Something's on fire. Our dryer was burned up. It did not just burn up. We unplugged it. It was overheated. You could smell burned rubber. It was not the lint. It was not the lint, and it was not the exhaust out the back with the lint. No, it was the control panel. We plugged it back in, and I hit the power button, and black smoke shot up, flames. There were white sparks everywhere. So yeah, the dryer had caught on fire, and they were blaming my sourdough. I don't know that they'll eat the sourdough. They may, when I ultimately bake tonight, start getting it going, they may connect it to burning our house down. So thank you to Lowe's for showing up before 8 o'clock this morning with a new washer and dryer. And do you know, I went in there on Wednesday and told them what had happened. And the guy said, was it my brand of washer dryer? And it was my brand. And he knew right off exactly which brand it would be that would would do that. And I said, well, we've had it for 10 years. And then he was surprised and said he had never actually heard of one lasting that long. And you would know the brand, but I'm not going to get into that. Now, I do want to get into the executive order. It will be effective at 6 p.m. this evening. And listen, throughout the show today, if you're in Georgia and you have questions about shelter in place, give me a call. 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425 is the number, and I will navigate you through what the shelter-in-place order gets to. No business. Let me just read you the language first. All residents and visitors of the state of Georgia shall practice social distancing and sanitation in accordance with this order and guidelines by the CDC. No business, establishment, corporation, nonprofit corporation, organization, or county or municipal government shall allow more than 10 persons, that always bothers me, 10 people, to be gathered at a single location if such gathering requires people to stand or to be seated within 6 feet of any other person. This provision shall not apply to cohabitating persons outside of their homes, family units, or roommates residing together in private homes or entities defined as critical infrastructure by this order. It is ordered. The term single location shall be interpreted to mean a space where all persons gathered cannot maintain at least 6 feet of distance between themselves and any other person. The term single location shall not include private residence. In other words, any location where people outside of a private residence, any location where people cannot be insured to be kept 6 feet apart must close. All residents and visitors of the state of Georgia are required to shelter in place within their homes or places of residence, meaning remaining in their place of residence or taking every possible precaution to limit social interaction to prevent the spread of infection of COVID-19 to themselves and other persons unless they are conducting or participating in essential services, performing necessary travel, are engaged in the performance of or travel to and from the performance of minimum basic operations for a business, establishment, corporation, nonprofit corporation, or organization not classified as critical infrastructure, or as part of the workforce for critical infrastructure and are actively engaged in the performance of or travel to and from their respective employers. Now, what does all of this mean? Well, the order helpfully breaks this down. And let me pause here and say, I got a couple of worrywarts who emailed me yesterday and said, oh, the governor said this was going to come and it hasn't come. And when's it going to come? And how can we prepare if it's going to go into noon on Friday? Blah, 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 blah. Well, the order didn't come until about 6 p.m. on yesterday. And it didn't come until 6 p.m. yesterday because they wanted to make sure they got all the legal language as best they could and made it as specific as possible to give people direction. And they wanted to balance between the more restrictive municipal ordinances that were out there and the ones with wider latitude. So as a result, instead of going into effect at noon today, this will go into effect at 6 p.m. tonight. Now, be mindful. Let me just cut to the chase. There is no reason for you to go to the grocery store right now and buy the place out, because here is essential services. Again, from the language, all residents and visitors are required to shelter in place unless they are conducting or participating in essential services. What are essential services? Essential services, defined by the order, obtaining necessary supplies and services for family or household members, such as food and supplies for household consumption and use. That would be groceries. Medical supplies or medication, supplies and equipment needed to work from home, and products needed to maintain safety, sanitation, and essential maintenance of the home and residence. So your hardware store is going to be open. Preference should be given to online ordering, home delivery, and curbside pickup services wherever possible, as opposed to in-store shopping. Engaging in activities essential for the health and safety of family or household members, such as seeking medical, behavioral health, or emergency services, shall be essential services, shall be considered essential services. Essential services permitted shall also include engaging in outdoor exercise activities, so long as the minimum distance of 6 feet is maintained during such activities. Essential services, again, obtaining necessary supplies and services. So that means you can go to the grocery store, you can go to the doctor, you can go to the drugstore, you can go to the bank, you can go to the hardware store. Online ordering is preferred. Home delivery is preferred. Curbside pickup services are preferred. The governor would like to discourage you from in-store shopping experiences. Now, beyond that, there's more. You can engage in health and safety activities, meaning you go to the doctor. You can go to a behavioral specialist. You can go to emergency services. So if you have medical needs, don't worry. The governor's not going to block you from your medical needs. The other thing is, and I actually got a question last night from several people. This is a big deal for several people. Can you go exercise? Can you go exercise? If you can go to outdoor exercises. You can't go to gyms. And then there are the essential services, minimal basic operations and critical infrastructure as defined by this order allows necessary travel. Meaning if you've got to go to your office, then you can go to your office and your office can stay open if it's critically important to keep the operations of the business going. Your business cannot conduct business except to the extent that business is necessary to keep the business open. And then there's critical infrastructure. And just so you understand what critical infrastructure is, critical infrastructure are businesses that the government feels are necessary to keep the country going. So if you're a farmer, you go to the farm. If you're a radio show talk show host, believe it or not, you're considered part of critical infrastructure because you work for a radio station. Or if you're a reporter, you're considered critical to the infrastructure of the country. If you're a lineman, if you work for Georgia Power or Atlanta Gas, you are considered critical to infrastructure. And you all get paper. In fact, I got a little handy dandy paper now that I'm supposed to keep in my car. If something happens to my radio connection and I got to drive to my office, I'm supposed to keep this paper in my car to show that I am doing necessary travel. But the odds are the governor's making very clear he wants to be relatively loose in enforcement except for crowds in restaurants and things like that. Now, I want to take your phone calls on this, and I'm going to continue to walk through this, but there is a call already on this, and I want to talk about it. The phone number here, if you've got questions, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Let's go to JJ in Dalton. JJ, welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. I appreciate what you do and the clarity you give most of us to listening to your program there. I was curious as to riding around and doing my job out here. I know they kind of want to keep everybody kind of in one spot, but when it comes down to eating, I'm a little worried about that part. So getting out and shoeing horses and running around from one house to the next, taking care of what I got to do, is that going to be an issue? Ain't nobody going to try and put me in jail, right?
Well, I don't think anyone's going to arrest you for being out. Here's what the governor says in his order. Businesses that are not critical infrastructure shall only engage in minimal basic operations. And if you engage in minimal basic operations, essentially, now I'm assuming you're a sole proprietor. You don't have people working with you.
No, that's correct.
All right. Well, as long as you don't have a fever over 100 degrees, you don't have a cough, and you don't have shortness of breath, you should be okay to do it. Now, here's the thing. How are they defining what your minimal basic operations are? Basically, the things that you must do to keep yourself in business at a minimal level without going beyond that is what you're allowed to do. So if you're out and you're shoeing horses on a farm and you're not allowed to have anybody around there with you, you can do it if you're by yourself and everybody's staying 6 feet away from you under my reading of the order. Now, I'm full all the caveats here. I'm not a lawyer anymore, but I'm reading this order, and it looks like you as someone who works on ranches and does horseshoes and the like, you should be able to go do it as long as people aren't around you and you're monitoring your own health. And if you get a fever of 100 or more, you shut down. Otherwise, there's going to be a level of liability to you if you've got a fever and symptoms that you wouldn't have had as of yesterday. So you got to be careful out there. But JJ, you should be able to do this as long as you're not having anybody with you. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's get into what is the minimal operations here, just so you understand what minimal operations are that the governor's talking about in this. Minimal operations are those operations necessary to keep your business in order. Let me read you the language. The minimum necessary activities to maintain the value of a business. Such minimal necessary operations include remaining open to the public subject to the restrictions of this order. The minimum necessary activities to facilitate employees or volunteers being able to work remotely if they can. Instances, pay attention to this one, JJ, instances where employees are working outdoors without regular contact with other people, such as delivery services, contractors, landscape businesses, and agriculture industry services shall be considered minimal basic operations that are acceptable. So listen, if you're a landscaper, if you're a delivery service, if you work in the ag industry like JJ doing horseshoes and the like, if you're a contractor who works outside mostly alone, you are permitted to continue to go to work. Your landscape business does not have to shut down. Your sole proprietorship that does delivery services does not have to shut down. Your ag industry contracting, your construction industry contracting does not have to shut down under this order. But, here's the thing. Let me go through these guidelines here when we come back, because if you are doing a landscape business, you're an ag business, your delivery service, you're a building contractor or construction industry, there are some new requirements that you have to follow as of 6 p.m. today in order to keep your business open. And I want to walk through those with everybody when we come back. Welcome back. It is Erick Erickson here. All right. I'm going to keep taking your phone calls about the shelter in place order. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Let me, though, right here, before I take any more phone calls on this, give you these so that we're not, I'm not teasing people so long that they can't hang on. If you are working outdoors, and I'm reading this from the order, you're allowed under the shelter in place to continue your business with minimum basic operations. And minimum basic operations are defined as the minimum necessary activities to maintain the value of your business. Such minimum necessary activities include remaining open to the public so long as every person in the business can stay a minimum of 6 feet apart. The minimum necessary activities to facilitate employees being able to work remotely or patrons being able to participate remotely. And then this one, instances where employees are working outdoors without regular contact with other persons, such as delivery services, contractors, landscape businesses, and agricultural industry services, will be considered minimum basic operations. Now, you got to listen to this. This is important. All businesses, establishes, corporations, nonprofit corporations, or other organizations, including sole proprietors, that are not critical infrastructure shall only engage in minimal basic operations as defined in this order during the effective dates of this order. Such entities shall also implement measures to mitigate exposure among the workforce. Such measures shall include, not may, shall include. If you're a contractor or anyone else, and you've got people who are working for you, even out in the field, you have to do the following thing. You must screen and evaluate workers who exhibit signs of illness such as a fever. You must require workers who exhibit signs of illness to stay home or go to the doctor. You must enhance sanitation as appropriate. You must require hand washing or sanitation as appropriate. You must provide personal protective equipment as available and appropriate. You must prohibit gatherings of workers during work hours. You must permit workers to take breaks and meals outside in their office or personal workspace or such areas as necessary to keep social distance. You must implement teleworking as practical and possible. You must implement staggered shifts for all possible workers. You must hold meetings and conferences virtually. You must deliver intangible services remotely wherever possible. You must discourage workers from using other workers' phones, desks, offices, or other work tools and equipment. No sharing cell phones and equipment and stuff now. You must prohibit handshaking and other unnecessary person-to-person contact. You must place notices that encourage hand hygiene at the entrances to workplaces. You must suspend the use of PIN pads, electronic signature capture, or other credit card receipt signature requirements to the extent permitted. You must enforce social distancing of non-cohabitating persons while present at such entities' leased or owned property. For retailers and service providers providing for alternative points of sale outside of businesses, including curbside pickup or delivery of products or services, if an alternative point of sale is permitted under Georgia law. You must increase physical space between workers and customers. You must provide disinfectant and sanitation products for workers to clean their workspace tools and equipment. And you must increase physical space between workers' work sites to at least 6 feet. If you want to stay open as a business, you must do all those things. Now, what about some of the other practical aspects of it? I don't have time here. Those of you who are on hold, please, I want to answer your questions, but I've got less than a minute here, and I can't do any of those questions justice, and I'm happy to take all of your questions as well. 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. And what does this order do for church services? What does it do for people coming to your home? All of those things are laid out in this order, and I want to walk you through all of those applications for this order and tell you what must happen. And then what are the critical infrastructure places that can stay open, and what must they do? What about restaurants and gyms and things like that? Well, by the short nutshell of it, they're all going to be closed, except with one exception. We'll get into all the exceptions, the home visits, the churches, all that when we come back. I want to tell you guys, before I get to your phone calls, real quick, we got a new sponsor of this program. And of all things, barbecue sauce. You know I love to cook, and this is a regular staple in our household. Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce. They're actually made in Macon. It's made in Macon. It's an old family recipe. It was so similar, and the reason we use it in our house is my wife, her grandfather down in South Georgia used to mix up this homemade barbecue sauce to put on chicken, and this is pretty much the same thing. And now it saves her time. And it has just become a household staple. Wings, you name it. You can actually pour this stuff over pork chops, bake it in the oven at 275 for 2 hours. The stuff falls apart, and it's fantastic. Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce. It is available in any store in your area where you're hearing my voice right now in Georgia. Fantastic barbecue sauce, fantastic company. It is local. If you want to help local businesses in Georgia, Mrs. Griffin's, and best of all, because their supply chain is local, every grocery store has them in stock right now. So when you're doing your hoarding for shelter in place, get some of Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce. If you can find meat, or if you've got it frozen, just pour it over the meat, wrap it up in foil, stick it in an oven at 275, 300 degrees for about an hour. You may need two, but man, you'll have some good eats. So thank you to Mrs. Griffin's for stepping up and sponsoring the show, and thank you to them for making their product, which keeps my household stocked in barbecue sauce. Not as an ad, we actually buy it at the grocery store. I don't take freebies from the sponsors. I'm happy to promote them. I was happy to promote them anyway, but they want to sponsor like First Liberty did, and by God, they're worth it. It is good eat. So if you haven't tried Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce, you should. Actually, really, really good with wings. Now, having said that, I want to go to Bob in Lithonia. Bob, I was going to get to this question, and since you're asking it, I'll let you ask the question.
Good morning. My question is, what happens if you go to somebody's house for just a quick visit, just the four of you? Is that allowed even for like a little Bible study? And if you want to just get in your car, roll down the windows, and drive, is that something that is perfectly acceptable? And if I may add one other thing, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but if you can comment on Marsha Blackburn's proposal of having China wipe out our debt as payment for what has happened, and if so, what that would have an effect on our economy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much for the questions, Bob. I want to get to Marsha Blackburn here in a little bit, but real quick, yes, I think they should. They should do it for everyone, but I don't think they will, and there's no way for us to make them. And our Constitution requires us to make good on all of our debts. So unless they waive our debts, we ourselves are obligated under our Constitution to continue paying, unless we want to amend the Constitution on that. But then that would hurt us, our credit rating if we backed out of paying. So China's got to do it, and they should, but I don't think they will. But there are ways we can go after them, and we should. Now, what about visiting? Well, first of all, let's do the casual driving. Under the technical terms of this order, you cannot go out of your house for a recreational drive. Under the terms of the order, you are allowed to leave your house for very specific things. You are allowed to leave your house to obtain groceries, medical supplies, supplies and equipment to work from home, supplies and equipment for safety and sanitation and maintenance. You are allowed to leave your home to engage in activities essential for the health and safety of family and household members, such as seeking medical or behavioral health or emergency services. Now, if you're going to say, well, I got to get out of the house for mental health, well, maybe you have an exception there, but under the clear language, no. And you're allowed to get out of your house for engaging in outdoor exercise activities. Now, I do know a friend of mine. In fact, he called me last night very worried about this. He has the same routine every day, rain or shine, literally rain or shine. He drives 5 miles to a local park and exercises. And could he do that? And yes, under the clear language of this, as long as he keeps 6 feet away from everyone else at the park, and he said actually there's nobody there, that he can do that. So can he get out for a recreational drive? My family does this. And under the plain language of the order, no, you really can't go for a recreational drive. But I don't think you're going to have local sheriff's offices enforcing you going for a drive. The presumption will be that you're going somewhere to see someone, and you can, for example, your local car wash can stay open as long as everyone stays away from each other. So that business won't have to close down under the plain language. So if you're taking your car out for a car wash or something like that, you can do it. Now, the other one is visitors to your house. You want a Bible study at your house. The governor has made clear in the order. Let me read you the key relevant language here, because there is a whole section on having visitors to your house. Let's see. Visitors visiting, here we go. Visitors listed shall be strictly enforced against nursing homes or other long-term care facilities, including inpatient, hospice, assisted living communities, personal care homes, intermediate care homes, community living arrangements, and community integration homes. Now, what does that actually mean? If you're strictly enforcing it against nursing homes and other places, meaning no visitors allowed at all, it means you're not strictly enforcing it against someone's household. So let me read you the visitation section of the order. People required to shelter in place under any provision of this order shall not receive visitors. The persons required to shelter in place under any provision of this order shall not receive visitors into their residence. There are 4 exceptions. Visitors providing medical, behavioral health, or emergency services or medical supplies or medication, including hospice. Visitors providing support for the person to conduct activities of daily living or instrumental activities of daily living. Visitors providing necessary supplies and services, such as food and supplies for household consumption and use, supplies and equipment needed to work from home, and products needed to maintain safety, sanitation, and essential maintenance of the residence, or visitors received during end-of-life circumstances. To the extent practicable under the circumstances, visitors into residences shall maintain a minimum distance of 6 feet between themselves and all other occupants of the person's home or residence. Any visitor visiting for the sole purpose of delivering medication, supplies, or other tangible goods shall, to the extent practicable, deliver such items in a manner that does not require in-person contact or require the deliverer to enter the person's home or residence. Now, what I would tell you is that this is kind of on you. You are not allowed to have visitors in your home unless those visitors support the conduct of activities of daily living or instrumental activities of daily living. If your faith is so instrumental to you that you must have someone in your home to conduct a Bible study, then you could argue that the visitors at your home are instrumental for the activities of daily living, to conduct activities of daily living and the like. You could argue that. I would argue that you could FaceTime. The general parameters here are no visitors to your house at all, except for these exceptions. Again, medical and behavioral emergency services, medical supplies, conduct for instrumental activities of daily living, delivering food, supplies, maintenance, repair, sanitation, essential services, and end-of-life circumstances. So they want to discourage you from having your Bible study in your home. Now, interestingly enough, the governor is not barring church services. This order will continue through Easter. He is not barring in-person church services, but what he is trying to do here is to make it so burdensome for a church service to happen and anything else to happen that most decide they're not going to do it. What happens if you decide you want to have a church service for Easter? This order is going to be in effect. Well, let me tell you what you got to go through. If you intend to do that, you have to screen everyone who comes in for their temperature and signs of cold and cough. You've got to provide extra sanitation. You've got to make sure that no person or no family can be within 6 feet of any other family. You've got to make sure that no one comes into contact. There's no handshaking, no passing of common goods. So no, you can't pass the plate. If you want to pass the offering plate, you will be shut down. You can't do these. It makes it practically impossible. There will be no communion in church this Sunday or next Sunday. In other words, what the governor wants you to do is not have church. He's not going to tell you not to. Also, he wants to make clear that nothing in this relates to firearms. You cannot, local people, let me read you the order. There is nothing in this order that shall be construed to suspend or limit the sale, dispensing, or transportation of firearms or ammunition or any component thereof. Now, why is that here? Because there are local municipalities around the state that want to bar you from owning a firearm or buying a firearm or transporting a firearm. And there are places around the country that are doing it. And some of those progressive Democrats who are in charge of local areas of the state may try it. And so the governor's making very clear here, this supersedes every local restriction. You cannot stop someone from buying or selling or transporting a firearm, ammunition, or any part thereof under this order. Now, what happens if you violate the order? Any person violating this is guilty of a misdemeanor. Officials enforcing the order shall take reasonable steps to provide notice prior to issuing a citation or making an arrest. In other words, the governor wants local law enforcement to issue warnings first before making an arrest. And if the behavior continues, then to do it. It is further ordered that if one or more of the provisions contained in this order shall be held invalid or unenforceable, the rest of the order will stand. What does that mean? Well, someone may file a lawsuit against this. There are all sorts of people belly aching over shelter-in-place orders. If you want to file a lawsuit against the shelter-in-place order, go file a lawsuit against the shelter-in-place order. Courts are still open, by the way. Courts can still hear cases. They may have to do it remotely, but they can still hear the case. And there are a lot of people say, this is unconstitutional. Brian Kemp can't do this. Well, go file a lawsuit. Now, what are some of the other aspects of this? Well, there is an exception to shelter-in-place requirements that if there is an emergency, you can leave your home of residence and shelter in place elsewhere. And people experiencing homelessness are urged to obtain shelter and ask the government for assistance. And there are some specific places that absolutely must be shut down. What are the places that have to be shut down? All restaurants and private social clubs must end dine-in services. Takeout, curbside service, and delivery are permitted. This won't apply to hospitals and healthcare facilities. And then there's this. All gyms, fitness centers, bowling alleys, theaters, live performance venues, operators of amusement rides, body art studios, businesses registered as estheticians and salons and the like, people licensed to practice massage therapy, businesses that possess a license to operate as a bar or nightclub must cease operations and close to the public. So if you own a gym, you own a salon, a nail salon, a hair salon, a fitness center, a bowling alley, a theater, live performance venue, and amusement park like Six Flags or something, you're all shut down. You are all shut down. So there you have it. Now, I just got a note from a buddy of mine who at the Monroe County newspaper who says, from what he says, what he reads, local law enforcement is not authorized to enforce this. I need to dig. I did not see that one. I will have to, let's see. Who's in charge to enforce it? I see. I'm scanning through here because, believe it or not, I used to be a lawyer. All local stuff is suspended. Yeah, okay. The Adjutant General of the Georgia National Guard, Commissioner of Public Safety, shall provide resources. The Department of Public Health, the Department of Public Safety, and other state department or state officers deputized by the governor or GEMA are authorized to mandate the closures of businesses, establishments, corporations, nonprofits, etc. Yes. Okay, so that is the here's the issue. I see what Will's getting to here. What this applies to is because there is a state of emergency. Let me read you the key language here, unless I'm missing another key part of the language here. I do know the answer to this question off the top of my head. Believe it or not, I have random useless knowledge in my head, and this is random useless knowledge that should be random useless knowledge, except it's not random useless knowledge, because here it comes. Here it is. It is ordered the Department of Public Health, the Department of Public Safety, and any other state departments or state officer deputized by the governor or the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency are, after providing reasonable notice, authorized to mandate the closure of any business, establishment, corporation, nonprofit corporation, or organization not in compliance with the order for a period not to extend beyond the order. It is further ordered that the Adjutant General of the Georgia National Guard and the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety shall provide resources as requested to enforce this. It is further ordered that all local ordinances or orders adopted or issued since March 1st for the stated purpose of responding to the emergency and ordering shelter in place are superseded by this. Enforcement of all such ordinances and orders is hereby suspended, and no county or municipality shall adopt any similar ordinance or order while this is taking place. Now, what does this all mean? Well, it means, first and foremost, that local governments who have issued shelter-in-place orders and other restrictions can no longer enforce those. This is the only enforceable one. It also means that individuals within the Department of Public Health, the Department of Public Safety, and GEMA and the National Guard will be the ones to come close your business or the subsidiaries thereof. Now, what are the subsidiaries thereof? This is the useless random knowledge I used to store up. At times of emergency, local police and sheriff's deputies essentially become actors not just for the municipal area and the county, but also for the state. And therefore, the governor gets to direct your local police officer to do his bidding at this time and not just the mayor. As a result of this, yes, it is on order from the state, but it is your local sheriff's deputy or your local police department that will typically be enforcing this. Now, the other key provision of this that you do need to understand real quick before I go to break is that the governor does not want to burden local municipal police and sheriff's officers with this. And so they're not going to strictly enforce this when you have visitors in your home unless people complain. They're not going to strictly enforce this. What the governor expects is for everybody to follow it, to do your best to follow it, realizing that some people won't be able to do everything or won't have knowledge to follow it. And so everyone's got to show everybody grace. And that's the key part of this order. It's kind of baked in, is he wants the people who enforce it to give you a warning first, to not ticket you, to not haul you off to jail, but to tell you this is an order, you got to change your behavior. And if you then don't change your behavior after being warned, you will be cracked down on, but you should get a warning. Basically, bottom line, folks, is stay home unless you need to go to the bank, the grocery store, or the doctor. Stay home. Don't waste resources. Well, my thanks to the publisher of the Monroe County Daily Reporter who sent me this Q&A. I was told that local law enforcement would be enforcing this, but the Q&A released by the governor's office says otherwise. The governor has not deputized local law enforcement to enforce the order. Only state law enforcement with post-certification will be charged with enforcement. So in other words, and this is the Q&A put out. I have been told otherwise, but this is what's in writing, and writing is more binding than what someone says. And thanks, Will, for passing this along, because it is absolutely contradictory to what I was told. But in the writing, the governor has not deputized local law enforcement to enforce the order. Only state patrol can enforce the order. Now, he said very clearly that he would, and I can only guess now, because again, this is contradictory to what I was told. But my guess is he's gonna hope that everyone complies, and if they don't comply, then there's going to be big trouble, mister. So you might as well comply. Here's the bottom line, though. Don't freak out about the order. Now, why should you not freak out about the order? Because you can go to the grocery store. Your grocery store is going to be open today and tomorrow and Sunday, and the supply chain is fine, and they're going to be full of stuff other than toilet paper, because people are still hoarding toilet paper, which is nuts. But I went to Publix yesterday, and I got every single thing on my grocery list at Publix in one trip, which is a first. In the last 3 weeks, I have not been able to do that. But yesterday, I went to the grocery store. I had about 30 things I needed at the grocery store. Every single one of them was in stock. Even the brown sugar and the flour were in stock yesterday, which we do a lot of cooking in our house. And I was kind of shocked that they were there, but they were. So don't panic. There's no reason to make a mad dash to the grocery store before this goes into effect at 6:00 tonight. You will be fine. You will absolutely be fine. And there will be plenty of stuff at the grocery store. And tomorrow the grocery store will be open as well. What is the bottom line on all of this? It is, you need to stay home. You need to change your habits. Now, for those of us who live in middle Georgia, I'm in Bibb County. For those who are in Fulton County or the city of Atlanta, it's really not anything different. In fact, there are people today who are attacking the governor for not going far enough in his order. There are some states where if you are seen out of your house, you're going to get arrested. In fact, the governor of New Jersey is not only ordering people to stay in their homes, but to stay 6 feet apart even from their children within their homes, which is stupid and no one's going to enforce it. And by the way, I got to say stuff like that will cause people to disrespect the law. I just, stay home. Now, I want to discuss this when we come back as well. There is some contrarian advice out there now. Sweden has decided not to lock down their country. They're going about their business and everybody's hunky-dory. And why are they different from the rest of us? When we come back, I want to talk about that. And also, the governor is under attack by MSNBC and left-wing celebrities and Democratic politicians for saying he didn't know asymptomatic people could get others infected, except that's not – he did misspeak for sure, but it's not true because you've heard him say on this show asymptomatic people can get people infected. We'll discuss that when we come back. Hello, Georgia. It is Erick Erickson here. The phone number to this program, and I got some news, so stand by. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. The governor's office just texted and said, could the governor come on at 11:40 this morning? So Governor Kemp will be joining me 11:40 this morning. You're going to want to stick around for that. This hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. They're in Noonan, and they make their own lending decisions, and this is important for you. If you're a small business, pay attention to this. You're going to want to go there for the payroll protection program, and there's only a limited pool of federal dollars for this, and they can get you into the program, and you need to go on and do it because today's the first day. There are going to be a lot of applications filed, and there's a limited pool of money, so if you're worried about meeting payroll for your workers, do it now. Go to firstlibertyga.com, firstlibertyga.com. Tell them that I sent you. The Frost family are super people, and they can get you in line with the payroll protection program so that the government will front the payroll for your employees for the next little while. And then if you maintain your payroll, you do not lay anybody off, the government will roll your loan into a grant. And in the grant, you will not have to pay anything back. So you get the loan, you keep your payroll for a period of time, and then your loan becomes a grant and you owe nothing. To do this, you need to get into the payroll protection program, though, ASAP. And to do it, go to firstlibertyga.com. Tell the Frost that I sent you. You can also, if you want all of this data and you want to navigate through and see the guide on businesses and stuff like that, text the word data to 33777. Text the word data to 33777. At the top of that page, you'll find the phone number for First Liberty of Georgia. And by the way, if you're listening anywhere in the nation, it doesn't matter. Anywhere in the nation, they can help you. But go to text data to 33777. You'll see that. You'll also, down the bottom, you will see a link to a guide the Chamber of Commerce has prepared on how the payroll protection program actually works. So you understand what you're getting into. But you've got to text data to 33777 to see all of that. I will text you. It's not going to ask your email address or anything. It's just going to text you back a link. And you click that link, and all the data is provided for you there. Now, if you're just tuning in the first hour, I reviewed the shelter-in-place order for the governor. The governor's going to join me at 11:40 to talk about this, but I want to do a very quick overview again if you're just tuning in. I did not mean to spend the entire first hour on this, but there were a lot of people with a lot of questions, and I wanted to answer those questions. If you've got questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. The governor's office has put in writing. I was told differently, but they have put in writing that right now the governor has no plans on local law enforcement enforcing this order. It's just going to be the state enforcing the order, the state patrol and the like. So keep that in mind. But here's the general gist of this. You've got to stay home. Unless you're going to the doctor, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to the bank, or you're going to the hardware store, you're doing stuff with your house. Your business needs to close unless you can ensure that you're checking everybody's temperature Everybody's keeping 6 feet apart. You've got enough sanitation stuff there. And there is an exception for landscapers, delivery services, contractors, and the ag industry. If you're a landscaper, an agriculture industry worker, a contractor, a building contractor, a job site contractor, an outdoor delivery service, or someone who works outdoors without regular contact with other people, you can stay in business, but you've got to monitor your health and the health of those who work with you. The other essential service that you can travel for is exercise. If you're engaging in outdoor exercise and can keep 6 feet apart from everyone else, you can do this. You're allowed to do it. So the general rule is stay at your home unless you need to go out. And the general rule is your business should close, but the governor's not going to make your business closed. If you intend to keep your business open, though, you have some burdens, and they are shall requirements. They're not may requirements. You must do these things. You must screen and evaluate workers and check for temperature. You must send people to the doctor or home if they exhibit any kinds of illness. You must have extra sanitation. You must stop communal gatherings. You must not allow people into each other's offices. You must provide sanitation at the door. You must hold meetings virtually by phone. You must stop people from contacting and touching each other. You must even restrict people going to the bathroom one at a time. You can't share a communal bathroom. You must do all of those sorts of things if you intend to keep your business open. But there are some businesses that absolutely must close and have no choice in whether or not they get to stay open or close. And those are gyms, fitness centers, bowling alleys, theaters, live performance venues, amusement parks, body art studios. That's what we here in the South call tattoo parlors, and estheticians, business salons, and business hair salons, nail salons, stuff like that. All of those have to close. There are no exceptions. You must cease in-person operations. If you're a car wash, your car wash gets to be open. If you're a hair salon, your hair salon has to close. Now, what are the exceptions for visitors in your home? You are prohibited from having visitors in your home for the next 2 weeks. No one can come to your house unless they're providing medical, behavioral health, or emergency services or supplies or medication. No one can come to your house unless they are supporting the conduct for activities of daily living or instrumental activities of daily living. No one can come to your house unless they're providing supplies and services such as food or supplies for consumption and use, or supplies and equipment to work on your home, or are repairing your home, or dealing with maintenance and safety and other things. And people can come to your home for end-of-life circumstances. Otherwise, no visitors to your house. But this will not be strictly enforced. It will be strictly enforced if you are in a nursing home or a shared living facility with others. That will be strictly enforced. If there's a senior care or a health care provider, no visitors allowed at all. Hospitals will be shut to visitors. Nursing homes will be shut to visitors. Things like rehab facilities shut to visitors. Now, all of this is to say, if you want to go hunting, you can go hunting. If you want to go fishing now, you are allowed to go fishing. The Georgia Outdoor Network has just released this, and let me break this down for you. Hunting and fishing are not canceled. The governor's order wants everyone to stay home except for essential activities. You're allowed to leave your house if you take proper precautions. You can go to the grocery store to buy food, seek medical assistance. You can go for a walk. You can still go fishing or turkey hunting. The DNR commissioner, the Department of Natural Resources Commissioner, Mark Williams, said Georgia state parks and others will remain open. Quota turkey hunts will still be on. But here's the catch. You must not go in groups. You must stay 6 feet away from others. You must either go by yourself or with someone who lives with you. You cannot go in a group of people who do not live in your house. Now, I am happy to answer any of your questions. The governor is going to be here in an hour to answer questions as well. You do need to know that there will be boat ramps and things like that will be closed. Georgia Power is closing all restrooms and pavilion facilities at day use and boat ramp areas at Georgia Power Lakes. Day use areas and boat ramps themselves will be open for public access under social distancing. Looks like I can get my kayak out this weekend and get out on the boat get out on the water if I want to at Lake Juliet. But You do have to be careful out there. You do not, and this is something else the governor's office wants to clarify. In a lot of states right now, California is one, a lot of more liberal states, if you are considered an essential personnel, you have to keep a letter in your car that certifies you are considered essential personnel. The governor's office wants to make it very clear to you, you are not going to need to keep a letter in your car. I've actually got one. I got one right here that says I am essential personnel because I work in radio, believe it or not. But I work out of my house, so it doesn't really apply to me. But nonetheless, you don't need a letter like that. I actually had the cable guy, cable repairman, came to the house the other. Yes, I just did that. A cable guy came to the house the other day, and he had to have one of those letters. He's actually got one. I've got that sitting on my desk as well. That you can't deny essential service personnel the purchase of gas. So you got to pay for it, but you can't deny them. Now, let me give you the audit trail of how this is spreading and delve into some of the details here. We've got 5,444 cases in Georgia, 1,129 people in the hospital, and 176 people dead. That is a 20.7% hospitalization rate and a 3.2% death rate, which is about the global average now. 20% of people in hospitals, 3% dying. We're seeing this in all Western countries, about the same thing. Let me give you the numbers, though. 747 in Fulton, 521 in Daugherty, 409 DeKalb, 341 Cobb, 303 Gwinnett, 165 Clayton, 153 Bartow, 139 Carroll, 115 Henry, 104 Lee, 94 Cherokee, 78 Floyd, 72 Hall, 66 Douglas, 57 Rockdale, 55 Clark, 55 Fayette, 53 Forsyth, 49 Houston, 48 Coweta, 48 Sumter, 47 Terrell, 44 Chatham, 42 Early, 42 Richmond, 40 Mitchell, 37 Newton, 35 Paulding, 29 Tiff, 28 Colquitt, 28 Worth, 27 Columbia, 26 Lowndes, 26 Muskogee, 25 in Bibb, 21 in Crisp, Glen, and Troop, 20 in Barrow and Gordon, 19 in Oconee, 17 in Spalding and Thomas, 16 in Polk, 15 in Walton, 14 in Lawrence and Ware and Whitfield, 11 in Bryan, Dawson, Dooley, and Jackson, 10 in Calhoun, Decatur, and Pierce, 9 in Butts, Coffee, Meriwether, and Pickens, 8 in Burke, Fanning, and Greene, 7 in Baldwin, Clay, Liberty, Lumpkin, Murray, and Peach, 6 in Bacon, Camden, Effingham, Harrelson, Lamar, Monroe, Seminole, Turner, Upson, and Washington. 5 in Catoosa, Dodge, Franklin, Harris, Irwin, Jones, Lincoln, Madison, Pulaski, Stevens, and Toombs. 4 in Baker, Brooks, Bullock, McDuffie, Miller, Randolph, Sly, and Warren. 3 in Appling, Banks, Ben Hill, Berrien, Chattooga, Hart, and White. 2 in Chattahoochee, Clinch, Grady, Habersham, Hurd, Jasper, Jefferson, Macon, Morgan, Pike, Putnam, Raven, Screven, Tatnall, Taylor, Telfair, Twiggs, Walker, and Wilkes. And 1 in Bleckley, Candler, Charlton, Cook, Dade, Emmanuel, Gilmer, Jenkins, Johnson, Lanier, Long, McIntosh, Oglethorpe, Stewart, Talbot, Union, Webster, Wheeler, Wilcox, Wilkinson, 665 in unknown counties. Now, the reason the number is such a big jump is because testing has improved. Not that the virus continues to spread rapidly, but testing continues. Now, here's the most notable one. This answers some of your questions. And again, let me tell you where I'm getting all this data. If you text data to 33777, you will get back a link to a page that I have done, and it contains a series of links. And in the series of links is one to the Georgia Department of Public Health. And you can see this for yourself. And this is the most interesting data point. It breaks down who all has died. It doesn't give you their name or their race, but it tells you their age, their gender, the county, and the underlying condition. And there are a lot of them we don't know if there's an underlying condition. But of the ones we do know, here's the data again. There are 176 people who have died. And listen to this. There is one female in Clark County of 89 years old who had no underlying conditions. There's a 56-year-old man in Cobb County with no underlying conditions. There's a 67-year-old man in Cobb County with no underlying conditions. There is a 66-year-old man in Douglas County with no underlying conditions. There's a 51-year-old female in Fayette County with no underlying conditions. And is that it? Yep, that's it. That's it. Those are 5 people out of 157 people dead, 176 people dead. There are 5 people who have no underlying conditions who have died. Everyone else, it's either they've got an underlying condition or we don't know. And what's so interesting about that is that the biggest underlying conditions, number 1 is diabetes. Number 1 overwhelmingly is diabetes, and number 2 is obesity. And obesity and diabetes, of course, are typically linked, but it's type 1 and type 2 diabetes are impacted. And then heart conditions are number 3. Cancer actually isn't in the top 5. It all has to do with pulmonary conditions, heart conditions. Lung cancer, of course, is there, but cancer overall is not. And diabetes, those are the big ones. Also, interestingly enough, overwhelmingly, it is the men who are dying. 60% of the deaths globally, on average, tend to be men. In some parts of the world, it is 70 to 80% of the deaths are men. In Italy, it's 75%. And one of the reasons is smoking. Smokers tend to suffer more. The other issue here that I find interesting is that there is some speculation, and this is speculation, but it's speculation enough that scientists are starting to talk about it, that women have 2 X chromosomes and men have an X and a Y. And there is a lot of now, it's enough credible speculation, the CDC is taking note of this, that women appear to get some immunity boost from the X chromosome, and because they have 2 X chromosomes, that this sort of coronavirus, the way it is shaped, has a harder time latching on to receptors in a female body than a male body. And again, this is all speculation, but it's credible enough the CDC is starting to take note of it. There's a report out of the New York Times today about that, which is just in and of itself very fascinating. Now, we need to move on because the governor is under attack here in the state and nationally. Governor Kemp under attack for something he said at his press conference on Thursday that was clearly a misstatement. Or I guess it was Wednesday press conference. It's clearly a misstatement, but he said it, and we might as well deal with it. So, you can sign up for this as well if you go to USPS.com. That's the post office site. You get an email every day of the mail that's coming to your house. They scan pictures of what's coming to your house so you can see it before it gets there. And it looks like, well, today's the day my absentee ballot application is showing up. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't know. I will vote by absentee. I normally do vote by absentee. I'm not sure that we need to do absentee balloting as opposed to just push this thing off till June. I want us all to be able to get together, but I don't think it's going to happen. Now, on the governor on Wednesday did say this. Let's not deny that he didn't say it. He said it. And he's getting blown up nationally, if not internationally, for saying it. He said he didn't know that asymptomatic people could spread the virus. Now, he said that, but he misspoke. He should have been more clear at least. And the reason I know he misspoke is because if you've listened to this program, you have heard the governor of the state of Georgia say repeatedly on this program that asymptomatic people can spread the virus. He said that here on this program at least twice. And in fact, on March 16th, this is what he said. The World Health Organization estimates a 21.9% mortality rate for those over 80 who are infected with COVID-19. And there is a significant risk that individuals who seem healthy could visit a facility, this he's talking about nursing homes, and unintentionally endanger residents. That was the governor on March 16th. So this national story that the governor doesn't know asymptomatic people can get you infected, it's not true. He certainly said it, but here's what he actually meant. The CDC on Wednesday, this is why he decided to do the shelter-in-place order. On Wednesday, the Centers for Disease Control released a report and new guidelines saying that it was impossible to model asymptomatic people because there are some people who never have symptoms. And those people can spread the infection, and that is new. There has been speculation that that's the case. But we now know it's not just there are people who they get sick and they don't have symptoms at first and they're contagious even without the symptoms. That's we all know. No, the governor has mentioned that on the air. What was not known for sure until Wednesday is that there are people who will get COVID-19 who will never be sick and never develop symptoms. And those people are still contagious. They will never get tested because they never have a symptom. They never get sick. And that is something new. It's been speculated about but was not known. We have always known that you can spread this disease before symptoms occur. Before you get a fever, before you get a cough, you can be contagious. What we have previously thought was that you would eventually get the fever or the cough or the diarrhea or what, but that you could be contagious before you do. What we now know, and what the governor was talking about on Wednesday, was that until Wednesday in the CDC report, no one knew that people who had become infected and never, ever actually got sick could infect the disease. There are people who will never get sick, who will have the disease right now and don't know it, and they're infecting other people. And as a result, the CDC says we can't model for those people. And because we can't model for those people, it's best that we all shelter in place. And that's why the governor changed his mind. Had nothing to do with pressure from GMA or from the Georgia Municipal Association and the like. And it's just bad misinformation. And now the media is seizing on this to attack him. And that's unfortunate because he was actually telling the truth. This was new knowledge on Wednesday, and he responded accordingly, which I thought is what we wanted in leaders. The phone number here, if you want to call in, is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. And I want to thank a brand new sponsor to the program, which is actually very familiar in our house because we use them all the time, and that's Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce, actually made in Macon, where I live. And they're in any, if you can hear my voice right now in Georgia, they're in your grocery store. In fact, I was talking to the head of the company yesterday, and we were talking about the run on grocery stores in Georgia. And he was telling me he's been having to drive himself and deliver the barbecue sauce because it's flying off the shelves. People are stockpiling stuff. You probably want to get you some Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce before it flies off the shelf at your store. But he was saying he's went to a Walmart up in North Georgia. I don't want to tell you which one, but actually one of our affiliates is there, and said that the Walmart there is used to getting a couple of trucks a week and has been getting upwards of 20 trucks a day. And their storage room is just overwhelmed, and they can't get stuff out of the storage room right now onto the shelves because they're just backed up completely. They're getting so much stuff in. The supply chain is running so much, it's almost breaking down the supply lines. And even he was telling me that they pulled up into the parking lot, wanted to go talk to the manager, and because they were coming in through the front door instead of the back door, the local Walmart bought every bottle in the van. And they immediately carried him in and set him up. And the Walmart was just appreciative that the Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce people were coming in and putting it in themselves instead of making the store clerks do it, because the store clerks are absolutely overwhelmed. When we think of first responders right now, we think of the doctors and the nurses and people like that. But the truck drivers and the store clerks and the cashiers, they are all first responders right now in this crisis. Interestingly enough, there's some data on churches out there that I find intriguing. In particular, among churchgoers, there's been all this attacking of evangelicals lately. Samaritan's Purse is under attack in New York City for building a hospital there, building a field hospital. Churchgoers are under attack. The media is highlighting prominently some Trump-supporting pastors who are refusing to close the doors of their churches. But among churchgoers, Republicans are abstaining from going to church at a higher rate than Democrats. This is not a bias survey. This is a Pew survey of the religious. 2/3 of respondents with a kid under 12 say managing childcare has been very or somewhat easy. 6% of atheists have prayed for an end to the virus. 6% of atheists have prayed, but only 14% of self-described Christians have prayed daily. Who pray daily have not prayed for an end. 14% of Christians who pray daily have not prayed for an end to COVID-19. Meanwhile, 6% of atheists who never pray have prayed for an end to COVID-19. And among churchgoers, Republicans have abstained from going to church at a higher rate than Democrats. Now, why is that? Well, it has probably everything to do with race. Wider denominations have been more aggressive about closing and going online, and white denominations tend now to lean Republican. You go to your local Episcopal church, which it used to be the Republican Party at prayer. It's now the Democratic Party at prayer, and some of them are still meeting to pray to, I don't know who their God is, but nonetheless, I'm kidding. Come on. The white Democrats, there aren't a lot of them left who go to church, and the Republicans are staying home. It is the black congregations that are staying open. And by the way, I'm not making that a criticism of them. They are staying open to provide essential services to their community. And there is something a lot of white churches could learn out there about how black churches are so integrated into their community of believers, in a way a lot of white churches are not. But it's interesting data. It's interesting data. Now, let's go to the phones. Jeff is calling. Jeff, you're going to be next. Welcome.
Hey, Eric, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hey, I'm wondering about these asymptomatic people that show no signs or symptoms, but they're infected. How do they get rid of the virus? Does it just go away on its own? Will this 2 weeks stay in place? Get rid of it, or do you have to test everybody?
So this is and let me bring people up to speed. This is why. So Brian Kemp's being attacked for saying he didn't know asymptomatic people could spread the virus, which isn't true because he said several times he knew that. What this new study is out of Singapore, and it came out on Tuesday, and the CDC took it so seriously they changed their guidance on Wednesday, of people who are asymptomatic and never actually get symptoms. We have always known there are asymptomatic people who can spread the virus before they get symptoms, but they always get symptoms. What is new is that we did not actually have credible evidence that there are people who are contagious who never actually get the symptoms of COVID-19. And so there could be someone walking around who's perfectly healthy, has no idea they're infected, and they're a super spreader because they're infecting to all sorts of people without ever having known that they were infected. But according to the Singapore study that the CDC changed its guidance on, the virus runs its course in those people without any symptoms, but still runs its course in a 14-day period. So you shelter in place for 14 days. Even the people who never know that they're sick, the virus burns through them as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The phone number here, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. That is the thing. This is brand new, and this is why there are also people, we all knew this all along. Well, we all knew there were asymptomatic people, and we all knew the asymptomatic people could spread the virus. But what we did not know is that there are actually asymptomatic people who never actually, for lack of a better phrase, they don't think they ever get the virus. You right now, listening to me, who feels perfectly fine and has no symptoms, you could be infected. And if you are infected, the odds are eventually you'll get a runny nose, or you'll get a fever, you'll get a dry cough. But there are people who are never going to get even those symptoms. There are people who never actually know that they're sick, and the virus runs through them just like it runs through you and me, but it is a completely non-experience to them. Typically in a coronavirus, you get symptoms eventually, and you can be contagious. That's why the flu spreads, by the way, because once you feel bad, you stay home. You know, oh gosh, I got the flu, I better stay home. The problem is that for a couple of days before, you're contagious and you don't even know you've got the flu yet. And with COVID-19, we knew there was a 4-day to a week-long period where you were contagious, but you eventually got the symptoms. What we now know as of Tuesday from Singapore is there are people who are infected who will never know they were infected. In fact, this is the most troubling thing, according to the CDC guidance, is that they may actually test negative even though they're spreading the virus. And that's bizarre, to have the virus, to be contagious, but to never get symptoms and to not test positive. That's a new level to this virus we didn't know about until Wednesday. And that is the data that caused the governor to put a shelter-in-place order in the state. Now, why? because there has been modeling that the state has followed, and it showed that as long as you didn't get over a 35% infection rate, that is, the virus grows 35% daily in its spread. When you get above 35%, it starts skyrocketing in exponentiality of how quickly it spreads. If you stay below a 35% infection rate, the virus is manageable. You can contain your hospitals and things like that. Well, with this new data, we can't tell whether or not we're below a 35% infection rate. And because we can't tell whether we're below a 35% infection rate or not, they decided the best thing to do is to shut the whole place down. And that's the big concern here. And that is new, and that's what the governor said when he said they didn't know any of this. That's what he was talking about. Not that he didn't know people who don't have symptoms can infect people. Everybody knows that, including the governor. He said it as much on this very program a couple of weeks ago. By the way, he's coming up in an hour. In an hour, Brian Kemp is going to be here to talk to us about this. Let's go back to the phones. Donna in Clarksville, listen on WCHM. Welcome.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay. Apparently, I'm in an area, of course, where we don't have a lot of spread, but I can't quite get the story straight about transfer on hard surfaces. I had heard something about how the virus can survive for 10 to 13 days on a hard surface. And if that's so, then should we be cautious about opening our mail? If I get a letter from New York City and
right.
it takes about 2 to 3 days to come through the mail, or if I get a package from a company in an infected area, where do you draw the line, and where do you? I don't want to make people crazy out there, because I know they'll be running around with it.
Normally, Donna, I'll take a question like this and I'll disconnect you, but I'm going to leave you here and you and I can talk about this, because I've wondered this myself, and I got to tell you, I saw a video of a guy online. It was Sanjay Gupta from CNN, and essentially he's coming in from the grocery store, and he's wiping down all the boxes with Lysol wipes, and he's getting his mail and packages, and he's wiping them down. I actually saw a guy the other day who had packages on his front porch, and he put on latex gloves and had Clorox wipes and was wiping everything. Y'all, I'm sorry. I would rather die than go through the hassle of doing that on a daily basis.
Me too. And that's the thing. I think that's one of the reasons nobody's going to actually come out and say, okay, don't pick up that Pepsi 2-liter in the store.
Yeah.
Wipe it down first before you pick it up, and put on your glove.
I'm not wearing latex gloves in my house to pour Coke. I'm just not. But I can tell you this.
I'm not going out to my mailbox and spritzing it down with Lysol before I remove the mail from the mailbox. You know what I'm one of those gung-ho type people. I don't panic and worry about stuff. If it happens, it happens.
So here's what I've been advising friends who have asked me about this. When you go to the store, come home and unload your groceries. Make sure you don't touch your face and wash your hands after you've unloaded your groceries. When you get your mail, open your mail and then wash your hands. Don't be fanning your mail in the face. Now, I will tell you, I make one exception to this. If I get a package and it comes from an area where there is a big viral spread, and it's not really hot, like it's cooled back down. The other day it was in the upper 80s here, and I didn't worry about it. But today it's in the 60s here in Macon right now. It's beautiful. But I will take a Lysol wipe, and I am wiping down the outside of the packages that come, because I had a package that I knew came from New York City. But the other stuff, life is too short. Go ahead.
Well, it's like using money. Okay, I was paying for my groceries in cash the other day, and I was thinking, if anything carries any germs, it's going to be money.
Right.
And there are some places that are encouraging people to use credit cards, but then they want you to use that little pin to mark yes or no, or to sign. So when you think about all the different points of contact and all the different ways that things can travel, and how many, it doesn't matter if you are isolated, if you get your mail, if you go down to your mailbox and you even open the mailbox, someone else has opened the mailbox before you.
I'm sorry, but the mail lady, who is the sweetest lady on the planet, she's wearing latex gloves, and she's not changing the gloves between mailboxes, so the latex gloves are just accumulating the germs on every handle.
Well, and you're going to get 2, 3, 4 pieces of mail, and all of those pieces of mail are going to come from different places. They might come from places where they were mailed 2 days before. They might come from places where they were mailed 5 days before. But they might come from all over the place, including the junk mail, and who knows where that comes from. So, like I said, I haven't heard anybody definitively say, okay, this is exactly how long that letter might be carrying the virus. I was just curious to see if there were any solid statements or solid opinions about that.
I researched the mail question because my mom asked the question, and I did read that, so I use my air conditioning company installed this filter in our house. It's a UV light, much like the robotics guy the other day. So the air goes through and it kills the viruses. And the mail sorting machines at the national processing facilities, all the mail goes through those things. So that to some degree does a little bit of sterilization, but there's a bunch of research out there done by the post office, and there has never been a known case of transmission of a virus through the mail. And in fact, the general facility rule is that the housing facilities are so warm that it tends to kill the viruses anyway. So I would wash my hands because, you don't know who's been touching your mail anyway, but I don't think you're going to get a virus from the mail.
Okay, good. Because maybe they should start selling those little UV lights to put in your mailbox, and that way when you're opening your mailbox,
that's not a bad idea. All right, I got to let you go there, Donna. Thank you very much for calling in. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing, though. This is my routine. My wife, of course, she's got lung cancer, so we're keeping her at home as best she can. She'll ride her Harley recreationally, but she won't stop anywhere. But she's not going to the grocery store. I do the grocery shopping, and here's what I do. I go to the grocery store. I make sure I have a wipe, and I wipe I was wiping. I'm not even wiping the shopping carts anymore. The reason I'm not is because my local Publix is so awesome. They're doing it constantly between uses. So there's no reason for me to waste a wipe when they're doing it for me. God bless them. So I go to the grocery store. I do all my shopping. By the way, old people who are hard of hearing, get better glasses so we're not all congregating around the vegetables while you're trying to stare at the back of cans and figure out what you're buying. This was my pet peeve yesterday. There were 3 people congregating right around the tomato sauce. I'm like, what the hell, people? Have you never bought tomato sauce before? There is no reason for you to have to all congregate right there. Stay 6 feet away. It creeped me out. Nonetheless, so I go to the grocery store. I do my grocery shopping. I load my groceries into the back of the car. I put the cart back. I open the door to my car from the outside and immediately have a hand sanitizer pump, and I cover my hands in it. And then I get in my car. The hands are still damp. Close the car, rub around the steering wheel, and I drive home. I go inside. I unload the groceries. I put up the groceries. I am not wiping down my boxed pasta. If I die, I die. So be it. I'll be with Jesus. I put it all up. I take all the plastic bags outside. By the way, San Francisco banning reusable plastic bags. Massachusetts banning reusable plastic bags. Why? They're not sanitary. Been telling people this. Use the plastic bag from the grocery store. So I bring home the single-use plastic bags that the environmentalists hate. I unload all the groceries. Yeah, I am that guy. I go on and unload all the groceries right then and there. I throw away the plastic bags, and then I do wipe down my counter, which I did anyway. Wipe down my counter, and then I wash my hands, and I go about my life. And I'm sorry, if my box of spaghetti is going to give me this virus, then the box of spaghetti is giving me the virus. But life is too short for me to be wiping Clorox bleach and Lysol all over my boxes of pasta and my canned goods. I'm going to stick them in the pantry, and they're going to stay there for a couple of days, and they should be fine. And if they're not, well, then they're not, and I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And if I wake up with Jesus, I wake up with Jesus, and I'm okay with that. I just got a great question from Bernadette, and she writes, I'm on the board of a nonprofit meeting house for a recovery program. We've been observing all of the protocols as ordered by the Cobb County Commission, but wondering if we need to close. Are the governor's orders any different as it relates to us? We provide a needed service and want to stay open if possible. And my response to her is the governor is not actually ordering closed. In his order, he's not ordering closed any business except for some specific ones. And the specific ones that are being ordered closed, let me pull back up this list. Where'd it go? Restaurants, gyms, fitness centers, bowling alleys, theaters, live performance venues, amusement parks, body art studios, salons, hair designers, etc. Bars and nightclubs. Restaurants are closed for in-person dining but can still do takeout. All other businesses can be open, and including these sorts of businesses that are recovery programs, health programs. But there are things you will have to do. If you're already doing them, you don't have to worry about it. And every business, just so you understand here, every business except for the bars and nightclubs and theaters and things like that can stay open. Restaurants can stay open for to-go service, not in dining service. But your business can stay open, but to stay open, it can only do minimal basic operations. And minimal basic operations are the things necessary to keep your business alive, without doing so much as to go gangbuster, so to speak. But there are things you got to do. You've got to make sure everyone stays 6 feet away from each other at all times. You've got to have hand washing, sanitation available. You've got to scan people for temperatures. You got to make sure that people don't have a temperature over 100.4 degrees. No cough, no shortness of breath. If they do, they've got to be removed from the business. You got to do everything possible to minimize the people who are present. And for the people who are present, to keep them 6 feet apart at all times and never come into contact with each other, physical contact with each other. So there you go. Just so you understand what's going on here. Now, when we come back at the top of the hour, the governor will join us at the bottom of the next hour. I want to also talk about the alternative example, because there are some people who are really upset about shelter in place. And there are a lot of people pointing to other examples of other places that are doing things differently. One in particular is Sweden. And we should discuss the Swedish example and the alternatives. Right now, what you need to know is that the Queen of England has won a major victory against environmentalists. And I found the story and I thought it was hilarious. Environmentalists. So the Queen decided she wanted to put in a hydroelectric turbine to generate power for her castle in Scotland. And she's got the space. She's got 50,000 acres, and it's not going to bother anybody. But environmentalists sued the Queen of England to stop her from putting in an environmentally friendly hydroelectric turbine. Why? The actual lawsuit says they were worried about woodland creatures being bothered by the noise. Hello and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here. The Erick Erickson Show across the state of Georgia. The phone number is 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK. I'm shifting gears here for a minute. I didn't I? My goodness, man, my wires are all crossed this morning. Y'all forgive me. You can call that number. Nobody's going to answer right now because I'm not there. That's the evening show. Thank you, Jim. I've been waiting. Y'all know I gave my cell phone out on the other show a while back. The phone number for this program is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Governor Kemp is going to join me after 11:35. So stick with me here. Governor Kemp will be here at the bottom of the hour, and I'm shifting gears for a minute here. I want to get into the Swedish data, but I'm shifting gears, and I'm going to do it right now. I was going to do it at the bottom of the hour, but the governor's coming by, so you're just going to have to bear with me. I don't know who needs to hear this. Somebody out there right now probably needs to hear this. And so here I go. 1,987 years ago this Sunday, historians actually do believe, and I say historians, not Christians, historians actually believe this is true. There's enough historic record to support it being true that a guy named Jesus from a town called Nazareth entered a city called Jerusalem with a crowd cheering him on. Scripture tells us the crowd was cheering, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. That's from John chapter 12, and John was an eyewitness to this and Jesus' best friend. Now, we remember that occasion as Palm Sunday, which Christians around the world are going to celebrate this Sunday. We are about to enter Holy Week. It is the holiest days for Christians. A week from Sunday, we're going to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. A week from today, I'm not going to be talking about politics on this radio program. You are warned. A week from today, I will be talking about Good Friday. This is a week that draws our attention, or at least should. Even atheist scholars recognize that this period that Christians call Holy Week is one of the most influential, if not the most influential periods of human history. The events of Good Friday and Easter, you ask historians globally, from Eastern or Western countries, what are the most important days in history? And you will see on the list Caesar crossing the Rubicon. You may very well see the rise of Lenin or the rise of Mao. You will see Alexander the Great conquering the world, and you will see on virtually every single list a man named Jesus being executed. Now, these atheist historians, they may not count the resurrection in there, but the death of Jesus of Nazareth in Jerusalem by Romans through crucifixion is on virtually every single list put out by historians in the last several hundred years, one of the most, if not the most, influential turning points in history. And you really can't deny it. You cannot deny it. There's actually more evidence that the crucifixion of Jesus happened than there is of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. There is more documentation written within 50 years of Christ's death than there was of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. And no one disputes that Julius Caesar crossed Rubicon. Now, keep in mind here, I'm not making an argument that Jesus is God, just that this guy existed and he was crucified. The same historic record that would support Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon supports the fact that this guy existed and he was killed. In fact, there's more documentation of Jesus' execution than of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon, and yet no one disputes that Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon. This week is going to be different. This coming week is going to be completely different from Holy Weeks in the past. This year, if you're listening to me, the odds are you're not going to church on Easter Sunday, or you're not going to church on Palm Sunday. Instead, you're going on the internet, and you're going to worship online with other people. We're not going to take communion together. We're probably not even going to take communion apart from each other. The whole world right now is upended. And in our living memories, none of us have experienced anything like this. But that's not to say it hasn't happened. The world has experienced these things before. In Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is closed. Now, if you don't know what the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is, it is believed to be built around both the tomb in which Jesus' body was placed after his crucifixion and Golgotha, the hill on which Jesus was crucified. It is a very large complex, and you can see both of these within this church. This church, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, has not closed its doors indefinitely since 1349. The Black Plague struck Jerusalem in 1349, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre had to close its doors to outsiders and worshipers and visitors. 671 years later, history's repeating itself. Yesterday, they closed up the church for the first time in 671 years. The world right now seems undone, upended, disconcerting, worrying. But I want you to consider something as we enter Holy Week, as Christians around the world celebrate Palm Sunday leading up to Easter. We need to consider something. We don't know precisely the year in which Jesus of Nazareth entered Jerusalem. We don't. We think it was around AD 33, but we don't know for sure. The historic record notes that he actually did this. Forget the Christian record. The historic pagan record of the day, the Roman record, the Jewish record of the day, notes that a man named Jesus of Nazareth came into Jerusalem on a donkey, was tortured and crucified and died. And that these Christians say he came back to life, and nobody believes them. The historic record notes he did this. Christians believe he rose again from the dead. I believe he rose again from the dead. But there's something that gets lost in all of this from a theological standpoint. And yeah, we're going to get a little theological here for just a moment. If you believe that Jesus is the Jesus Christians believe he is, he could not have entered Jerusalem a week before he did. And he could not have entered Jerusalem a year before he did. And he could not have entered a week after he did. and he could not have entered 5 years after he did. His entry and the timing of his entry was part of a plan that was put in place. If you're a supralapsarian before the fall, and if you're an infralapsarian after the fall, but his plan, his before time began, the plan was designed, and he entered the city of Jerusalem in that last week before his crucifixion on a date certain that we don't know why, we don't understand, but it had to happen then. In the same way, he could not have been born until the rise of the Roman Empire to make the effective transmission of the religion he would give the world able to be transmitted around the world. In the same way, the virus could not have spread without God allowing it. It could not have spread when it did except by God allowing it as part of a master plan we don't understand, we can't see. But all of it happens before a throne on which sits the creator of all things, who sees all things and knows all things. Now, the people who are listening to me who don't believe these things, they're going to see it all as a random act. A butterfly flapping its wings halfway around the world caused a storm above your house. But the Christian knows God created the butterfly and put it halfway around the world that it might flap its wings to cause that storm. Now, the unbeliever, and even some Christians, frankly, would hear all this and say, well, that just means we're all puppets, but there ain't no strings attached to me. There are no strings attached to you, but there is an all-knowing, fully sovereign God who's got a plan for all of us, sets us to it, blesses us, gives us our own volition, allows us to live our lives, and puts us on a path that he has set that we don't even recognize for purposes we may not understand or ever even fully appreciate or recognize. We may go our entire life trying to find our purpose and not know it, but he's got one for us, even if we don't see it. The unfolding of the world, it's a surprise to all of us. It's not a surprise to him. All things are part of a plan. It glorifies him. It reveals him to us in some way if we pay attention to it. R.C. Sproul, the theologian who passed away recently in the last year or so, said if there is a single molecule in the universe running around loose, totally free of God's sovereignty, then we've got no guarantee that a single promise of God is ever going to be fulfilled. Every single one of us has our own free volition, but we've all also got a purpose. You have a purpose. You've been blessed in some way and given a purpose and prepared for a time like this that you can be a blessing to other people. God himself chose every single one of us in some way to be part of a plan and part of right now. In the book of Amos in the Old Testament, it's my favorite book of the Old Testament, God says, this is a quote from Amos 4, I sent among you a pestilence after the manner of Egypt. I killed your young men with the sword and carried away your horses, and I made the stench of your camp go up into your nostrils, yet you did not return to me. You know, your theology needs to account for this and not randomness. Your theology needs to account for God sending pestilence or standing aside and letting others send pestilence, but doing so in a way that tries to pull us back to him or otherwise glorifies him or in some way we can't understand. I mean, the God who allows this virus to spread across the planet is the same God who sent the second person of the Trinity to his death in Jerusalem this coming week, 1,987 years ago or so about. We don't get to escape the world, but he didn't get to escape the world. He died on a cross. Now, some of you will hear all this and say, well, you worship a malevolent God then. No. People who live by faith need to trust that. J.C. Ryle said there's no such thing as chance or luck or accident in the Christian journey through the world. All is arranged and appointed by God, and all things are working together for the believer's good. God's on his throne. He's got a plan for you. He's got a plan for me. He's even got a plan for all of human history. We may not know what our role is right now, and we can't understand the plan, and we don't see how a global pandemic plays into the plan, particularly one that's going to keep us out of church on Sunday. It's going to keep us out of church on Easter. We don't know how we fit into the plan, but here's the thing. We can be assured all of this is going to glorify him, and it's going to work for the good of those called according to his purposes. If you're of faith, you need to take faith in that. You need to believe that. You may not be able to see it. You may not be able to understand it. You may have friends who are sick. You may have friends who have died of this virus. But all things work for the good of those called according to his purpose. He sits on his throne. He is in control of all things. So if you're a person of faith and you're willing to accept that God really is in control of all things, not an atom of this universe can vibrate but for his permission. You don't need to let your heart be troubled. You don't need to be afraid. This may be something none of us have ever experienced, but it's not like there's not a God with a plan up there. There is a God with a plan, and everything's going to turn out for the good. That doesn't mean that we won't have tragedy. That doesn't mean something bad won't happen to us. Something bad happened to Jesus 1,987 years ago. But he didn't exempt himself from the bad. We can't get exempted from the bad, but we know it all works out for the good in the end. We just have to take that by faith, and sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you just can't understand it. Sometimes you're really frustrated. I talked to a guy yesterday who was so deeply upset he was in tears, yelling at me, mad at me because he could be mad at anyone else, that he's going to be out of work with this shelter-in-place order, or so he thought. It doesn't look like he will now. But he was so upset with Brian Kemp. He was screaming on the phone, "Governor, if you're listening, don't do this to me. Don't do this to my family." He was screaming at me saying, "I'm going to get paid. He's not going to get paid. So I need to understand his situation." And I just want to tell him, and I want to tell you, it's okay. We're not exempted from the troubles and the tragedies of the world. None of us are. But there is a master plan. And you may not be able to trust in the day-to-day, and you may be overwhelmed with worry. You may be upset you can't be with your friends in church on Sunday. But there's a good that you will one day hopefully see in this. Something good will come from this. Something good always comes from tragedy, even though it takes us a long time sometimes to see how we affect each other. But I'm telling you right now, you got a purpose and there is a plan, and you need to trust in that. And you have been blessed in some way and given some purpose you may not understand for this very moment right now, so that you can be a blessing to other people in some way you may not yet fully appreciate. Whether it's you are financially blessed in a way that you can step up and cover the demands of other people who cannot meet their own financial demands, or you can be relational, or you are a doctor and you are a gifted healer, or you are someone who can take care of other people, or you have time on your hands to run groceries to other people. There is a place and a plan for you, and you've been blessed in such a way to make sure that your purpose in life can be fulfilled even in a time like this. So don't be troubled. Don't be afraid. God's got this. He's got you. We'll all be okay. Even if the world seems like it's not going to be, we will be okay, come what may. I keep getting asked this question and want to reiterate it. The governor's office is very clear, and the governor's going to join me at, they just confirmed it'll be 40 after the hour. The governor's going to join me, and they want to be very clear. You will not need papers to travel. If you leave your home, you're not going to get pulled over by the cops for leaving your house. There's no reason to worry about that. That seems to be the number one question I'm getting asked. And I'll ask the governor himself, but his office is very clear in a fact they put out, an FAQ, frequently asked questions. Will you need papers to travel outside your home? No, you will not need papers to travel outside your home. The governor's office expects that you will be on your best behavior, and you will not violate the terms of the order. And you will not be congregating in mass outside your home, or having a bunch of people in your house, or going places you shouldn't go. But they're not going to start arresting people for leaving their homes. I told my wife it sounds like she will be able to ride her motorcycle if she wants to ride her motorcycle. She can say she's taken the long way somewhere. Now. I want to put this on your radar screen, because there is this article out of Sweden. The counterexample, Fraser Nelson writing this in the London Telegraph. The Swedes are not on lockdown. The virus is spreading, but they're the only country in Europe that's not doing the shelter-in-place stuff. Shopping centers remain open, as are most schools and firms. Many work from home, many don't. All are at liberty to choose. They're still doing soccer matches, football matches, if you will. There's no Swedish experiment there. It's not that the Swedes are in denial. They've got 5,466 confirmed cases and 282 deaths. Coronavirus has been found in a third of Stockholm's elderly care centers. But the debate is whether or not a lockdown should be necessary. And in Sweden, they've decided not to. Their response has been led by Anders Tegnell, the state epidemiologist who's holding daily press conferences. The politicians aren't involved. His team has published their own assessments showing it's going to peak with about 250 intensive care units in Sweden or in Stockholm. The nation's hospitals can cope. There's a 600-bed temporary ward opening south of Stockholm. He's urging cautions, and Swedes are responding. University students are learning from home. Sports are continuing, but spectators are spaced out. Online meetups are replacing old ones. People aren't shaking hands, but he isn't asking Swedes to trust him. Hospital data is being published on a daily basis so that everybody can see what's going on. Every time a patient is admitted, the data is updated on a live website. The average age is 60. Those with diabetes are 26% of the patients. Cardiovascular lung disease amounts to 24%. Underlying health conditions cause 77%. Sweden's updating his statistics as someone dies. And they're noting who is dying from the virus and who is dying with the virus, two separate things that even some people in this country are saying we need to do. But they're not shutting down the country. They're not doing sheltering in place. And there are a lot of people in this country saying we should do like Sweden. There is one problem, though, and please do keep this in mind. Sweden's hospitals are not overwhelmed, and they have plenty of beds and ICU space available. We don't. The situation in parts of this country, and this is why I favor the regional approach. There are actually a lot of people in this country demanding that the whole country be shut down. They want the president to shut down the whole place. And the president says, one, he doesn't have the power to do it. And two, even if he did, he wouldn't. Dr. Fauci says we need a statewide or a nationwide shelter in place. The president's not inclined to do it. But the issue is we know in places like New York City and Albany, Georgia, and even now Atlanta, hospital space is almost filled up. And we weren't doing shelter in place until this week. And so I do think that the people who are advocating we take the Swedish position need to recognize that we are in a different situation than Sweden. And the reason we're in the different situation than Sweden is because our hospital capacity is maxed out and Sweden's isn't. And so Sweden has more wiggle room for the virus to spread and infect in a way that New York City does not, and Albany, Georgia does not, and Atlanta, Georgia does not. I actually got an email yesterday from a friend who is a doctor in New York City who has been one of the people telling me we were overreacting and I was overreacting and this virus wasn't going to be that big a deal. And he's now taking the position that he was wrong. And anyone who thinks otherwise is more than welcome to come volunteer in his hospital and hope not to get the virus and not be able to go home. They're having to sleep on floors and on gurneys because there are no hospital beds for the doctors and nurses to rest on. They can't go home to their families. He says it is an absolute disaster and that he was absolutely wrong in how bad this is spreading. And wants people to understand you should not be one of those people who's got to experience it for yourself to understand how bad it is. The difference here is the difference there. And we've got a big spread here that Sweden doesn't have, so we have to respond differently. When we come back, Governor Kemp is going to join me to talk about his shelter-in-place order. The phone number here is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. In just a few minutes, the governor of the state of Georgia is going to be joining me. Before he gets here, I want to make a couple of notes real quick. First of all, if you need a small business loan for payroll, please reach out to my friends at First Liberty of Georgia. I was going to tell you guys this anyway. I did the other day, and then they reached out and wanted to sponsor the show. You can go to firstlibertyga.com. If you want to find their phone number, links to the underlying background on how the payroll protection program is going to work. It's available today. Today is the first day you can apply, and there's a limited pool of money. Text the word data to 33777. Text the word data, D-A-T-A, to the number 33777. I'll send you back a link immediately, and it will it'll have a link to First Liberty of Georgia. It'll have their phone number. It'll have the primer from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on how you apply and what the deal is, et cetera. You will be able to get your payroll protection. The way it essentially works is there's a mathematical formula on how much of a loan you can get based on your payroll. And if you do not lay people off and you maintain your payroll, it will be converted to a grant and you will not have to pay any of the money back. If you do lay off people and make changes, you will have to pay the money back. I think there's a percentage of the amount that can go to rent, but otherwise everything else has to go to payroll. And again, the folks at First Liberty, they make their own decisions. If you're listening to me anywhere in the United States, they can help you, and they will help you and get you in the door, but you need to call them ASAP. If you're even thinking about doing it, you should go on and talk to them so they can get you in the line. You don't have to go through with it ultimately, but you need to get your paperwork processed ASAP because there's a limited pool of money from the federal government here, and it's going to max out quick. So call First Liberty. It's firstlibertyga.com is their website, or text DATA to 33777. Also, we've got a new sponsor to this program, and it is Mrs. Griffin's Barbecue Sauce. They're here locally in Macon, where I am, and if you're listening to me, you can find them in the grocery store. They reached out. I'm like, heck, we use Mrs. Griffin's in our house. Really great with wings and other things. I cook with it all the time, and so I'm thanking them, and I'm also helping them promote their business because you want to help a Georgia company. They're a Georgia company, and you can find them in stores everywhere in Georgia. Particularly Houston County and North, you can definitely find them. So if you want to try great barbecue sauce, and they're in stock. I was talking to the head of the company, and he's saying they are personally driving and helping the grocery stores stock because the grocery stores are overwhelmed right now with the supply chain. And that's one thing I want you to remember with the governor's shelter and order place is you do not have to stockpile right now. You just don't have to. The grocery stores are going to stay open. Faye in Norcross, I'm going to let you preempt the governor here. He hadn't gotten on yet, Faye, so go ahead.
All right. Well, this is going to be sort of entertaining, but it's a mystery, too, that I hope you or your listeners can help me solve. I live in Norcross, and I was just heading out to make a run to the bank and heard this weird noise, and I stopped at my driveway, and I'm not sure if it was a gentleman or a lady. It was an African-American person with very long, beautiful black and gold braids, and he had a black and gold headdress with a snake, like an Egyptian headdress on their head, a red silk skirt covered with a Jewish blue and white prayer shawl, and white underpants, and was blowing a ram's horn. Now, Passover is not till next Wednesday. Otherwise, I would have thought it was something to do with Passover. But I'm completely puzzled. Does anybody know what? I mean, I don't know if he was announcing the end of the world. But I thought you'd be interested to hear that. And maybe you could solve the mystery.
I'm wondering if there is some sort of like pre-Passover thing I'm missing. This is the bizarre thing of the day, Faye. I've got no idea.
It's just bringing everything out, isn't it? This coronavirus is bringing out all kinds of interesting things.
Maybe he was praying to the gods to get his internet service back on or something. I don't know. He knew how
to blow a ram's horn, right? I mean, it sounds just like a ram's horn. It's about 3 feet long. Ram's horn.
I got to imagine this is something in the run up to Passover. Given everything, I have no idea.
Yeah, but an Egyptian headdress with a Jewish prayer shawl.
Yeah, I don't know. Did they rearrange Halloween this year? I don't know.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. I got no idea. People are crazy, and people are losing their minds out there right now. This is a weird setup. All right. Well, we're waiting for the governor, by the way. If I sound like I'm stalling, I kind of am. He was wrapping up a phone call and was going to call in around 11:40, so he should be calling any second. I do believe we'll wait for Charlie to get him on the line. I got plenty of other stuff that I wanted to talk about with you today. While we're waiting for him, one of those is, have you heard about Jemele Hill? Jemele Hill is the woman who was the Sports Center anchor on ESPN. And people kept getting mad because she kept dragging politics into it. And if you'll recall there, for a while, ESPN was getting political, and they were A-okay with it until the data showed they were losing viewers, and part of it was politics. Well, they fired her. She got upset. She screamed racism and the like. Now she's a writer at The Atlantic, and she's upset because Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, flew a plane to China to pick up supplies to supply hospitals in Massachusetts. And she wants people to know he's a Donald Trump supporter, and we should all be offended that he's helping hospitals. Man, when your politics keeps you from celebrating people doing good stuff, that's sad. Now, joining me to talk about the shelter-in-place order is the governor of the state of Georgia. Governor Kemp, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Eric.
So there are a lot of people with a lot of questions, and I think I've answered most of them, but let me get this out of the way with you. My understanding from your office is no one's going to have to worry about getting arrested if they're seen driving out on the road.
No, that's right. There is essential travel that's laid out in the documents. We have actually a FAQ page on our website that's kind of a one-pager that tried to really put it in layman's terms. Obviously, when you do orders like this, and all of this is unprecedented with the public health emergency that we've seen in our state. There's a lot of legalities that go into that, but we've tried to simplify that document. We've got our call center up and running, a lot of different people in state agencies that are answering questions. And we know we're going to get a lot of that over the next few days, but we just want to continue to urge people to remain calm. You can go to the grocery store, you can go to the pharmacy, you can go get, medical help, obviously, if needed. You can travel to critical infrastructure businesses as well as other businesses, but we have parameters and guidelines that must be followed on that, and then continuing with things that we've had in place for quite a long time now with the social distancing requirements and no large gatherings. And then we also added some of the other businesses that we've closed because it's just impractical to practice the social distancing requirements. And with the new guidelines that we've gotten from CDC on the community spread, that was a recommendation that Dr. Toomey made, and we've got that list on our website as well.
Now, the other question that I'm kind of surprised by the number of people I've gotten this from, and I think based on my reading of it, they should be okay. But if they're by themselves and fishing, can they do that?
Yeah, recreation is, exercise is included. We wanted to give people latitude. Look, as a husband and as a father of, 3 daughters that are in their teens and early 20s, people are stir crazy, and they're going to continue to be that way for their health, physical health, mental health. We feel like it's a good thing for people to go out and get a walk, to be able to get some fresh air. We just need to have them do that in a safe way. So, if somebody wants to go fishing, they'll be able to do that. If they're going to a public facility like a beach or one of our area lakes, we're going to have DNR rangers and state patrolmen and other law enforcement personnel out there. Not necessarily, our first goal, Eric, is not to do enforcement, but just to help people be able to comply so we can keep our folks safe and help lessen the surge that we're going to see in our hospitals. So we're going to be limiting, the amount of cars or boat trailers that can get into the parking lots. We're going to make sure that people are practicing social distancing, that we're not having gatherings there. We don't want people to come there and, picnic. We want people to come there, get a little exercise, or put their boat in the water and get out there where they're separating themselves. So I would just tell people to follow the order, use good common sense. If you're not doing that and the law enforcement personnel reminds you of what needs to be done, we would just ask people to adhere to that and be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Now, you speak of the coming wave of patients we may see. Some of the modeling suggests that Georgia is going to have a shortage of ICU space or bed space. What are your projections right now in the office?
Well, that is what we're seeing as well. The new model that came out that Dr. Burks and the president talked about, and I think it was in their press conference just the other day. And really, when they changed that modeling, as Dr. Toomey said, that really changed where we were in Georgia and how we were going to have to operate, which is why I've taken the aggressive action that I did with the shelter in place that will go into effect at 6 p.m. tonight. And that is really another measured step when you look at, how long we've been dealing with this. The task force in February, over the 6 weeks, I've worked hard to educate the public and convince people that this is a serious issue. They need the social distance. They don't need to be having large gatherings. We did the public health emergency on March 14th, and then we did the first shelter in place with the medically fragile on the 23rd that closed bars and nightclubs and enforced the social distancing and large gathering ban. And then we've got the new order that goes into effect tonight. And it's really all because the new modeling is showing that our peak's going to be April 23rd, which is just a few weeks away. The way it looks now, if we don't flatten the curve, is we're going to have a large surge in hospitals, at our hospitals, and we're going to need bed space. We have our whole team at GEMA the National Guard, Department of Public Health, and many other people working with the hospitals. I just got off a call with the Georgia Hospital Association just a few minutes ago talking about that issue and how we're going to work together to solve that problem in their hospitals, but also looking at more mobile facilities and other things that we can do as a state to ramp up for that. But the public, Eric, can be a big help in this. If people will follow the guidelines, if they won't congregate, if they will help cut down on the spread as well as the increased testing that we're doing, and if people are feeling bad, don't go out, isolate yourself. If we can lessen that curve, that'll be that many less hospital beds that we have to have, less equipment that we're going to need on the ground, and that would be a huge help to our area hospitals.
Well, speaking of the area hospitals, Daugherty County now per capita is in a situation similar to New York City. What's the state doing to relieve the situation down there?
Well, we are doing and have been doing for several weeks now, throwing everything we got at Daugherty County, Albany, with the hospital surge that we're seeing at Phoebe. I've talked to Scott Steiner multiple times. We're working with them right now. In the next couple of days, we'll have the Phoebe North facility that has been closed. We'll have it open and running. We'll be working all weekend to continue to make that happen, so that'll give them a little relief. We at the other area hospitals have been great about taking overflow patients, and we've got many other things that we're doing down there to work with the nursing homes to help give them better guidance on infectious disease control. The National Guard and General Cardin is in control of that. But this is a great example of why we need people to follow these orders that we have had and those that are in place now. We had a super spreader situation down there. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. We had somebody go to a church service that was from outside the area that was infected. It was a funeral. Then a few days later, there was another funeral with a lot of those same community members attending that helped to spread. That ended up, being hospital workers that went into facilities or nursing home facilities, and the next thing you know, you have an epicenter down there. And so it is all hands on deck down there. I've been talking with Chairman Cahias and many other local elected officials and, working literally day and night on that issue. We have public health epi teams down there. I asked Dr. Toomey asked the CDC to come in and help, so they have been on the ground down there, and we just got to continue to fight that battle. And, Dr. Toomey's point to me the day before we did the shelter-in-place order was, we don't want Athens or Columbus to be the next Albany, and that is why she suggested I take additional steps, and that's what we've done, and that'll go into place tonight at 6 p.m.
Well, last question for you here, Governor. You're under some fire from MSNBC and others for saying you didn't know asymptomatic people spread the virus, which you and we've had multiple conversations on the show about asymptomatic people spreading. So I know that's the case, but I want to give you an opportunity to clarify here.
Well, it's certainly disappointing to see in a pandemic like this that people are taking partisan attacks. As you know, Eric, I've been through that over the last 2 to 3 years. That doesn't really bother me. I'm working hard to keep Georgians safe. We're going to continue to do like I've been doing since way back in February and listen to public health officials, continue to work with the White House, especially with the president, the vice president, the coronavirus task force, following the guidelines that they've set. If I didn't believe that, I never would have put in social distancing thing weeks and weeks ago. So I would urge Georgians not to get bogged down in that ridiculousness. Just know that we have a great team. We're following the science. We're following the data. And we're working hard in conjunction with our healthcare folks on the front lines. And I want to just ask all Georgians to continue to pray for those individuals and support them. They are in a real battle right now, like we all are, as well as our first responders, EMTs, and a lot of small business owners and other people that have been hit hard. I'd ask people to continue to support them however you can if you're able. And we're doing everything as we can as a state to pull through this. I know that we will, and we will be stronger when we come out on the other side.
Governor Kemp, thank you very much for stopping by. Best of luck to you in this time as you continue leading the state. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. Have a great day.
You too. So if you want to fish, you can fish. You can get out on the lakes. You can go to the state parks. You can even go to the beach. You just have to maintain social distance, and crowds will be dispersed by law enforcement. But the main thing from the governor is he very much wants everybody to stay home if you can stay home, and only get out of your house for essential services. But if you need a mental health break and get out of your house, you will be permitted to do that. Phone lines are closed. Why? Because we are about out of time. It is Palm Sunday, this Sunday. And one thing I want to caution, listen, next Friday will be the one day a year that I get super preachy. You are forewarned, warned in advance. But so I'm on a somehow or another, I fell into being considered an evangelical leader. And whether you like it or not, I did get a nice note the other day from a pastor who warned me that my mouth was becoming a potty mouth online, and I needed, man, I tell you, these people there's people online who are cooped up and they're driving me crazy. So I got to watch my mouth. I got to watch my language online. I got to watch my language, because who knows what'll come out on the air here. But nonetheless, I digress. So I'm on this email listserv with a lot of the more prominent evangelicals. Y'all would probably know every name on the list except for a couple of them. And there is a concern, even expressed by some of these, and these are major preachers in this country who you would all know, and they are even a bit concerned that some local congregations, local church members, may spend more time engaged with their content than with their home church content over the Easter season. And of course, there are a lot of local pastors who are upset with this. And so you've got a lot of places that are volunteering to help get pastors streaming so that they can do their own live streams for their congregations. You know, Facebook Live and Instagram and the like, they make it very, very easy. If you don't know how to do it, if you've got an iPhone in particular, it is exceedingly easy to do a Facebook Live video. You literally download the Facebook app on your phone, and you can do a Facebook Live on your cell phone. It's that easy. You can go on Instagram and you can do an Instagram Live. There are ways to do it. But there's this real concern in the faith community that people will fall out of the habit of going to their physical church. And you can't, in most cases, go to your physical church right now, but you need a relationship to your local congregation. These are not normal times. And one of the real dangers out there is people lose their sense of community while they're in their house. I think this is actually an excellent opportunity for local churches to resume local community. If I was a local church, I would break up your list of members into small groups, put one deacon in charge of each of the groups, and engage as best you can, and at least call them regularly and make sure they're engaged. But y'all, it's Palm Sunday. We're headed into Holy Week, and I hope you'll find a way to worship online with other people this week if that's your thing. And otherwise, have a great weekend, and don't go hoard groceries. Grocery stores will still be open.